Coming up on this episode of the Prompt First, Ask Later podcast.
So because things are moving so fast in the AI world and people are trying so hard to be the next best thing and move fast and get it done, are we sacrificing quality versus speed when it comes to some of this stuff? You know what I mean? Because maybe I'm just old school in my thinking, but when you do something, you want to do it right and you want to make sure it's good, rather than just being the new shiny thing on the market and making it, and then you have all kinds of problems. Well, that degrades your integrity. And I'm just wondering if that's not kind of what AI is doing right now. It's moving so fast. People are not really doing the QA work and testing things and making sure everything works right. Hey, it's the AI guys from Spedge back with you again with another episode of Prompt First, Ask Later. And I'm Ken Peel along with Sagar Pandya with Spedge. Thanks for being here. Sagar, man, it's been a while. Good to see you. How you been?
Good to see you, man. I love doing this stuff. I need more Ken time. It's good, but it's always good to be back in front of a camera talking and just yapping about AI with you, man.
Yeah, and we've been talking in the past few episodes about AI agents. We've been talking about all kinds of different topics, but we really haven't addressed any of the news about AI that is out and interesting because people are talking about it. And one in particular story that I wanted to dive into, by the way, is Apple and their kind of approach that they're coming out with. And, you know, traditionally, Apple has been a couple of years behind in certain innovations. And one of the reasons why is they take it and they kind of see how things work and then they adapt it and put it into their system and they say that it works better. Well, I'm just wondering if the credibility factor with Siri and all of that going into the AI world is going to have a problem because people are used to going to like Chat GPT now, right? And other LLMs, and are they willing to switch back to use it in their phone? I don't know,
man. I think my opinion is that Apple always takes their time in releasing new features and doing new things.
Yeah.
But in the era of AI, that is very costly. And the name of the game is speed. You have to be first to market. And most people associate AI with Chat GPT. That's just the mentality around it. Yeah. And Siri has struggled. I think from what I've learned, there's a lot of turnover that happens at Apple in their AI business unit. They haven't hired the staff that would probably be able to elevate Apple's abilities to compete. I think Apple focusing a lot on that car project that they had talked about and then scrapping it kind of slowed them down. Right. And now you've read that Apple has signed or will be signing an agreement with Google to have Gemini power Siri because Apple doesn't have their own models, which you could argue models are a commodity and it's not really the value of AI there. It's more on the application layer, which, yes, makes sense. Well, being one of the most valuable public companies on earth, you would think Apple would have a leg up on competition, but they just haven't followed suit. So I think now that the fact that iPhones are the most popular phones, at least in the US, you have to have some strategy because people are very disappointed. And like all this Apple intelligence bullshit that they came out with a year ago, they told everyone, get an iPhone 17, it's going to be AI ready. Dude, that's just sending prompts to ChatGPT and then it's sending it back to your phone. It has been less than stellar. And I think given some of the leadership changes, most notably that Tim Cook is no longer going to be CEO of Apple after this year. And then their hardware SVP, John, I think his name is John Termes, is going to take over. He's an engineer. Maybe shit will change. But I think Apple they waited a little bit too long. They should have made some agreement or had some distribution so that they could have at least competed. And last thing I'll say is like, you know, I've looked at these Android phones like Samsung and Google Pixel that have, especially the Google Pixels that have Gemini natively across all the apps. Yeah. I was so close to jumping ship from my iPhone to Google Pixel because I needed to upgrade. My phone was 5 years old. Can you believe it? But I ended up staying with an iPhone just because I didn't want to create more friction in my ability to operate. So there's a lot to be said here, man. I've been disappointed. I don't know what the hell Apple is doing, and I hope they can get their shit together soon.
Yeah. Well, and you know, as of this taping, the iPhone is 19 years old. It came out 19 years ago, and it was the hot thing when it came out. And now with so much competition for Apple, and I'm like you, I'm kind of buried into the iOS and the Apple syndrome, if you will, or sucked into the dark side, whichever you want to look
Ecosystem.
at it. Yeah. Just because everything that I do is pretty much with iOS and with Apple. And so I know a lot of people are probably that way, but I just feel like there's some kind of maybe disinterest in the whole AI thing with Apple. And so we'll see. It'll be interesting to find out whether they can pull this thing off or not, and whether it's going to actually be viable and competitive with all
Yeah.
the other models that are out there.
What would you think, Ken, would be like, if AI were to exist in your Apple ecosystem, right? Given the work you've been doing at SPED, you've been pretty
Yeah.
bleeding edge more than most folks that are listening or watching this. If you did have a perfect outcome for Apple to
Yeah.
integrate AI, what would that look like given you're locked into their ecosystem right now?
Well, and I think the key thing that you said for me is that the perfect model or the perfect AI that works consistently, because I've used quite a few LLMs and I've noticed a huge difference in the way that they operate and the way that I use it and the results that I get. And even with Claude, I've noticed some, I guess you would call it, mistakes that it makes, and it doesn't remember everything all the time. And I know that they have different models that you can go up to and use more tokens and that type of thing. But just from a basic perspective, just simple commands, sometimes it doesn't remember. So there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done. And if Apple could come up with a model that would work consistently rather than me going into a different app and then having to give a prompt and then wait for its response. If it was integrated into the phone and it was reliable, I'd be
Yeah.
all for it. I mean, because I'm already there. But anyway, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, because like you said, they're quite a bit behind, and it's moving faster and faster every day, and it's hard to keep up,
And
especially when you're
maybe
that far behind.
it could be the most genius strategy of all time, because if you look at OpenAI, Anthropic, Google,
Yeah,
the tens of billions of dollars that they have committed to spending and have already spent to try to become the lead model of choice. I mean, I
right,
think Google, in my opinion, has unlimited money given
right.
their
Yeah,
business and what they've developed. I think OpenAI and Anthropic just being newer entrants compared to Google, they have to continue raising. So I think if you look back on this in the future, I could be totally wrong. And maybe Apple's strategy now is they've come out with their Apple core foundational AI models that live on your
right.
phone. So they never
Yeah,
leave the device to do the processing. You don't go to a third party LLM. Maybe it took time, and maybe Apple is looking at something completely differently. I'm just a AI consultant. I'm not in the hardware business. But maybe
right.
there's an opportunity there if you think about the other side of this, which is Apple just really wanted to get the privacy and the security part of it well. Apple wanted its own silicone. They make their own chips to have the capability to run the models locally. And then you got
Sure.
this global memory shortage that's happening that's driving up
Oh yeah.
prices of Apple hardware, right? So like
Oh,
the
it's
Apple
crazy.
Neos and the MacBooks. First time, I mean, these prices are going up a couple $100 a device. That's pretty significant. So I imagine there's probably these headwinds that are slowing down Apple's ability, whether it's a combination of leadership challenges, whether it's supply chain and prices of inventory like memory, whether it's just the inability to maintain talent internally in their AI business unit, whether it's
Yeah.
competition from other frontier labs, whether it's risk from open source models right outside of the US. Or a combination of all these things. I'm sure there are things at play, Ken, that I can't see clearly, but given Apple and who they are, not super surprising. I just want to emphasize that in the AI space, velocity and the speed at which you move is very important. And I
Yeah.
say that sometimes even more important than the best security posture or the best integration and functionality. You just got to move.
Yeah. So I got a question about that real quick. So because things are moving so fast in the AI world and people are trying so hard to be the next best thing and move fast and get it done, are we sacrificing quality versus speed when it comes to some of this stuff? You know what I mean? Because maybe I'm
Yep.
just old school in my thinking, but when you do something, you want to do it right and you want to make sure it's good rather than just being the new shiny thing on the market and making it, and then you have all kinds of problems. Well, that degrades your integrity. And I'm just wondering if that's not kind of what AI is doing right now. It's moving so fast. People are not really doing the QA work and testing things and making sure everything works right.
Fantastic question. Given the vantage point you have
Yeah.
leading up QA at Spedge and doing all the quality work for us, absolutely great question. And you're right. There is the trifecta, which is, do you want to go fast? Do you want to do it right? Or do you want to spend the least amount of money possible? Cheap,
Yeah.
fast, good quality. You got to pick two. If you're going to do it
Yeah.
cheap and you're going to have good quality, it's not going to go fast. It's going to go slowly. If
Yeah.
you're going to do something fast and good quality, it's going to cost you a lot. If you want to do
Yeah.
fast and cheap, man, good luck, like
Yeah.
securing it.
Right.
So you got to pick two of the things. And I think there's FOMO. There's this desire to want to be first movers. I think there's a lot of hype in terms of companies being overvalued by AI. We're still yet to see massive ROI. Companies are just having to raise more and more money. So yes, I believe that when you move quick, you have to sacrifice a little bit of quality and a little bit of security. But I think the premise of security should not be fully the burden of whether an AI rollout is done quickly or slowly. I think the precedent of security should be set well in advance. And I yell about this stuff all the time. You got to have good security posture, good
Yes.
security controls, good security capability, regardless of whether you're using AI or not. AI shouldn't be the catalyst for you to start a security program or to take security more seriously inside of your organization. So
Yeah.
this talk that moving fast creates more security risk is more of a byproduct of poorly designed security in the first place. So it's interesting the work that we do at Spedge, which requires the three buckets of things that have to be addressed first. You have to know an understanding of your data, you got to have good leadership alignment, and you got to have some type of security maturity inside of your company or
Right.
your organization. If you don't, moving slowly with AI is not necessarily going to solve your lack of security controls. So I think the organizations that are watching, if you're seriously considering rolling out security, and if you're wondering if you should go quick or slow or experiment or do it in-house or hire a consultant like Spedge, look at yourself first and just ask yourselves, what is the security maturity of your company? Do you have an outsourced security provider? Do people have a shared responsibility inside of the organization to want to protect your client data, their own information? And from there, that should then give you confidence on whether an AI rollout will be governed and successful, regardless of how slowly or how quickly you do it. So I think,
Yeah.
can I turn it around and say, yeah, you can do all the QA you want. You can go fast or slow, but if you don't have good security controls, it's not going to matter because something's going to hit and it's going to
Yeah.
be ugly.
Yeah. And that kind of leads me into what I wanted to talk about next. And the reason why I asked that whole fast thing and our companies moving too fast, and that is in the news. And if people use Claude, you're seeing a little banner down at the bottom of the screen when you're prompting, and it's talking about Fable 5 and Mythos 5 and Anthropic's models that they had to pull back on because of some things that maybe weren't thought of, or maybe it was just not the way that they thought it would be, whatever the case might be. But they were all hyping up this Fable 5, and now all of a sudden they had to pull back. And so I'm not sure if that was because it was done too fast without the right Q&A, or what the reason was, but it's interesting. Maybe that is the reason that they moved too fast on it.
Maybe it was too fast. I don't know if we're ever going to get the truth out of what really happened. There's so much misinformation that dominates the headlines these days, whether it's news or social media. You
Right.
can't tell fact from fiction. The fact is that Anthropic released those models to the general public. It seemed like just for a couple days, and
Yeah.
then that access was pulled. And there are some reports that state that threat actors and cyber criminals used those capabilities from those models to break into organizations, companies in the US, and some federal agencies. There's been reports of that. There's been reports of what they call distillation, which is the prompting of the models to then train open source clones to try to undercut the innovation that Anthropic says that they've delivered with this model. There's been conversations on it just being a potential marketing ploy because apparently Anthropic is on a road to an IPO and they've mastered FOMO based marketing because
Yeah.
they released the Mythos got out of the lab and the document got leaked and how much hype that created. Now there's hype.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that when you log into the Claude interface, the Fable model selection is
Yeah.
there, but it's like grayed out and says unavailable.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be in front of everyone's face all the time? Like if it's really an issue with national security and an export control with the government, Do you have to have it listed where it says unavailable and you just kind of dangle this carrot in front of folks? So I got
Yeah.
it all twisted in my mind, Ken. I don't know what to believe. Is it a marketing
Yeah.
ploy? It's the most genius hyper marketing campaign of all time. Is it a fundraising strategy for their IPO? Is Dario just wanting to dangle carrots? Is it truly part of Anthropic pulling out from the Pentagon because apparently they wanted to use the AI models for things that Anthropic didn't agree with? Is it truly because there was some indication of threat actor activity that was created to allow them to break into places that normally wouldn't have been able to be broken into without those models? There's so much shit, man. I don't know what to believe. It's definitely the Wild West, but I will tell you that Anthropic recently announced that they're apparently rolling out Mythos and Fable to trusted partners like these major cybersecurity companies to vet and put in some guardrails. Who the hell knows what the reality is,
Right.
but just the fact that it was given to us and then taken. I think I got 2 prompts in Mythos and I have to pull them to see which ones I did before it went away.
Yeah.
I don't know what to believe anymore, man. It's really interesting that Anthropic says this. And then, not to change the spotlight here, but OpenAI recently announced GPT-5.6, which now needs to go through some verification process before it's rolled out to end users. And apparently, there's going to be allegedly an ID verification where if you want to use it, you got to like put your ID first and they have to
Yeah.
verify that you're not a foreign national or some crazy verification system, which I know we're going on this topic, but it kind of like leads to this thought of like, are open source better? Because now if you put all your eggs in the Anthropic basket at any given time, they could just snap a finger and take away access, which
Right.
would just cripple any type of application or capability that you're building. So yeah, I don't know what to make of all this stuff. I guess time will tell. And whatever we're spoon fed from the social media or the news agencies or whatever they're telling us, we're going to have to take with a grain of salt, man. But I don't know how this is going to play out. It's just really interesting times as of this recording.
And we were talking earlier about how these companies like Google has unlimited funding almost, it seems, and they're wanting to create all this stuff. And it surprises me in a way. And maybe it's because it's not part of his business model, but how about Musk? Elon Musk. I mean, he's the richest guy on the planet, and he's trying to do Grok, and he's doing Grok 4.5 in a private beta. And I don't know. I've just not heard much out of that camp as far as LLMs or anything like that going on right now. So it's interesting. You got somebody that's got unlimited funding, and now there's not really a whole lot going on in this area. So maybe he knows something that we don't know.
I know that this conversation, I know we're veering a little off topic, but the SpaceX IPO recently had a lot of
Yeah.
hype around it, obviously. And then just the fact that right before it happened, SpaceX announced that they were partnering with Anthropic to provide data center capacity through their Colossus data center. They did the same with Cerebras AI and a couple other names. And then once the IPO happened, SpaceX announcing the acquisition of Cursor for $60 billion, which these are just headlines. And it's like really interesting, Ken. It brings up another point. For the average person that's not on the bleeding edge of AI, they read all this stuff. Like the
Yeah.
number one question that probably comes into the head of those folks is like, what do you want me to do with this information? How does it impact the regular Joe when they're using AI tools? I think what you all should be thinking about as you're listening and watching this is that up until now, you've had subsidized access to the latest state of the art AI models. It's the same strategy that Uber had used about a decade ago, where their prices were subsidized, meaning that you pay a very low fee and then the difference of what it actually costs Uber to be able to service that ride was subsidized by the billions of dollars that they had raised from investors. We're seeing
Yeah.
a similar pattern here where OpenAI, I think they've just raised $120 billion. They're giving you state of the art AI models for 20, $30 a month. When in some reports, they're saying that it's actually costing OpenAI $2, $3, $5, $10,000 for some folks to be able to service that. So I wonder, is this a larger, broader conversation and just the maturity of an AI industry that's just in its infancy? Is there a lot of unit economics and pricing demands? Is there a lot of competition and pressure from non-US AI labs that are creating this sentiment? Is it purely hype marketing to prep for IPOs? Is it truly disagreement with government or public policy? Is it backlash from previous decisions? Is it a lack of hardware? Just so many headwinds that the average Joe or Jane just is not going to understand. So if you're watching this and you're just lost like everybody else, just know that these $20 a month, $30 a month subscriptions are not going to be here forever. If you're not
Yeah.
using an AI tool already, when it's so easily accessible, it's going to become 10 times harder for you to adopt and catch up with folks when it becomes even more expensive. Because then you're going to be thinking with your wallet versus your brain. So if you can't do it on a $20 a month subscription, which is right there, how are you going to react if it's $200 or $2,000 a month?
Right.
So I really wonder, like, what are all these things in play, Ken, that are just driving eyeballs and attention? Who the heck knows what's going to happen? I'm just grateful that you and I at least have had a chance to participate in these subsidized AI state of the art models, and we use them pretty regularly at Spedge to help us with our client deliverables and the own learnings ourselves. I wonder what the future is going to be later this year and early next year into
Yeah.
2027.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially as token costs are going up. And like you said, we don't know where it's going as far as monthly cost is concerned. And it's going to be interesting. But one thing I do know is that we at Spedge, we're here, we're willing to help to integrate your business practices into AI and use AI in it and make you more efficient. And if that's something that you're interested in, you want to find out more, doesn't cost you anything. Just go to our website, spedge.ai, and you can book a free consultation. We'll just ask questions, find out where you're at. Is your data right? Is your culture right at your workplace? Whatever. We'd love to help you out. And we also have something that you can keep up to date on all of the different AI news too. If you go to news.spedge.ai, you can get and sign up for actually it's a news roll, if you will, of all the different AI news that's out there, and you want to stay up to date on it. Now, it's not super elaborate, but it gives you a good place to start on knowing what's going on, and you can get it delivered right to your inbox. So again, that is news.spedge.ai. But hey, thanks for listening to the Prompt First, Ask Later podcast. It's just been kind of a casual conversation about AI news. We haven't really dug into that, but a lot of folks are talking about it, Sagar. And so it's important to stay up to date and just give some background on what we're thinking and know exactly where AI is going, or at least what we think it's going to do. So it's been great having you on the show again. Appreciate the time today.
Thanks, everybody. Chat with you soon.